I'm far from my prime. I'm not exactly a young guy. I'm 44 and I've even been through one divorce. A separation like this can make a man go in two different directions. One where he's happy and he has his freedom to be whatever he wants and date whoever he wants, but I chose the other direction. I felt bitter. I felt without a purpose, and my wife took everything I had, leaving me with absolutely nothing. An entire life's work, and I'm right back where I started when I was out of college. It was hard after the divorce. I had to go through multiple lawyers. After I lost everything, I didn't have enough money saved up, so I had to move in with a flatmate. I felt like a shell of a man. The day I put an ad out on Craigslist that I'm looking for a flatmate, and there I was, 44. I felt like the most insignificant person on the face of the earth. Fortunately for me, a guy responded to my ad. His name was Jake, and he was in his 20s. We met, and upon seeing that he was a nice guy, we moved into the apartment. We got along well. I mean, as well as a middle-aged man and a young guy could. I liked things a certain way. I liked everything to be neat, but of course, he was the opposite. He'd leave dishes in the sink that I needed to clean because he was saying that he would leave them to soak. He would leave cans of soda on the living room table, but I couldn't say anything to him, or not anything too aggressive, because I couldn't afford the place all on my own. Then the pandemic came, and we were forced to work from home, both me and my flatmate, and he was a major distraction. I had a hard job as it was, without him walking around all day and talking on the phone or listening to music, or worse yet, calling people over. He also had a job, some sort of online marketing thing. He was creating content for different businesses. It may sound like a hard and complicated job, but believe me that this guy barely worked. He was so relaxed and even made a little bit more money than me, while I had to even work overtime sometimes because my boss said so. One day, he got a girlfriend. He brought her home and they went into their room. For the course of the next 3 hours, I think, I could hear them having sex. While I was there, stuck in front of my computer, trying to put numbers and data into different sheets. All the while, my boss was emailing me constantly, saying that I don't do the job well and that I slack off, and that I'm lucky I even have this job. This went on for a long time. Each day he would bring his girlfriend over, and besides all of the noise that they would make in the bedroom, in the middle of the day and even at night when I was trying to sleep, they would also bring over people and party. They would drink, listen to loud music, talk all night. It was driving me crazy. It was the life I had always dreamed of having when I was in college. I always wanted to have a hot girlfriend and lots of friends to party with every night. But in college, I was always focused on studying. I thought that if I study, I will get an amazing job, and I would make a lot of money, and the rest of my life will be a continuous party. Well, here I am. I'm in my mid-40s. I live with a kid that's making more than me. I'm without a house, and I work for a company that doesn't appreciate me. My life sucks, and this situation that I'm in this apartment, isn't making it easier. I was feeling like I'm losing my mind and my will to live. Each night I would stare at the ceiling while I could hear laughter and people having fun. I felt like I was dead. I felt like I was a ghost and I could only see other people living. Plus, the relationship they both had was amazing. She was so nice to him, and they would constantly kiss each other and call each other pet names. She would wake up early and make breakfast before she took it to his room. It was like the relationship I never had. Slowly but surely, I started to hate the both of them. Sure, they didn't do anything personal to me. Heck, they never really acknowledged me, but I hated them. Day by day, I wanted them gone. I started to think about my wife and how badly she treated me my entire life. And here was this kid who had it all. Why couldn't I have that? Why did I become such a big loser? One night they were out, and he said that I shouldn't wait up, joking of course. I was so relieved. I thought that I had the apartment and the night to myself. I had a big day at work tomorrow, and I needed to rest. The boss and I would have a meeting through the camera, and I was nervous about what he was going to say to me. Slowly but surely, I fell asleep, but around 2 a.m. a noise woke me up. It was him and his girlfriend. They came back and they were drunk. They started bumping into things and breaking them in the kitchen. They also laughed so loud and talked that I couldn't fall asleep anymore. I was furious. In that moment, I snapped. I got up, came out of my room, and I shouted at them, and I told them to shut up. The guy turned towards me and said, "Chill, old man. Just go back to your cave." And they both laughed at me. I had enough. I went into the kitchen, and I grabbed a rolling pan. What are you doing, old man? You gonna make us some cookies?" he said. But seconds after that, I hit him in the head with it. I hit him really hard, multiple times. There was blood all over the kitchen, and his girlfriend screamed, not knowing what to do. She jumped on my back, trying to make me stop, but I pushed her. She managed to slam her head on the cupboard and fell unconscious. And then, there was silence. I went to my room and I laid on my bed. An hour had gone by, but the house was still completely silent. Then slowly I got up, went over to the coffee machine and made myself a cappuccino before calling the police. My life was over.
I'm hiding while writing this. I can't tell you exactly where I am because I'm not safe. There is someone out there looking for me. I don't know exactly what the bounty hunter wants. I don't know if I'm supposed to be dead or I just need to be delivered just like a piece of meat. Anyway, I want all of you to know my story. I don't know if this is going to help or that I'm going to get out of this alive, but at least it's worth a try. It happened 2 years ago. I was working at a large company. It was my first job, so I didn't have a high-profile position, but I was excited. I was full of hope going into the finance world, but I would find out soon enough that nothing is ever as it seems. I wasn't allowed to be a part of any meetings or any strategic planning. All I was needed for was to make the coffee and other similar things. I just thought this was what working your way up the ladder means. One day, my boss and 2 other high-ranking people at the company went into his office. They shut off the blinds. I didn't know what went on, but at 1 p.m., I was expected to deliver my boss's afternoon coffee. So even though the door was shut, I knocked 1 time and went in holding a hot espresso with no sugar. They all looked at me as if I was an intruder. They stopped talking immediately, and a strange silence took over the room. "What?" my boss asked while his eyes turned red. "Don't you know this is a private meeting? Who told you to come in here?" he asked while banging his fist on his desk. "You did, sir. Every day at 1 p.m. You said you need your afternoon pick-me-up." I answered while just standing at the door with the coffee. He sighed and told me to put it on his desk and get out. But while I walked towards them, the other 2 looked at me, and they were whispering something. As I got closer, they stopped, and after I put the cup on his desk and headed towards the door, they started whispering yet again. I found it weird, but I couldn't ask what was it about. One evening, I got a very strange request. "Matt, come here. I need to talk to you," my boss told me. I don't know what was going on. I thought he would fire me, but I went anyway. "Yes? You wanted to see me?" I asked. "I know how hard you've been working around here. I watched you closely. And even though you were very good at the things you did until now, I know you have a lot of potential. You seem like a very smart guy, and because I have an eye for talent, I want to give you a promotion. How about you take over the Maverick account?" he asked me while looking me in the eyes. Maverick? That is a high-profile account, sir. It's worth over $10 million. Are you sure? I mean, I just started and... Before I could speak my mind, he interrupted me. "Look, kid, I know you have what it takes. This is an order. You'll take over this account, okay?" he asked. "Got it," I responded, and then I left the office. I was scared, but happy at the same time. I mean, I didn't want to deliver coffee for the rest of my life. This is why I got into the finance game, to make something of myself. This was my big break. Everything went well at the office, but after about a week, at 10 p.m., someone knocked on my door. It was the feds. They accused me of fraud and came to take me away. I didn't even know what was going on. Luckily, I had some money for bail and got released that night. I called my boss and told him all about it, how that account was what got me into trouble. But he threatened me. He said he would kill me with his own hands if I would say anything to the police. And furthermore, he had them in his back pocket. The blame would still fall on me. "And don't forget, kid, I know where you live," he told me before ending the call. I was scared out of my mind. I thought I would either get jailed again or worse, killed. And I didn't want any of it. Even though I couldn't leave my house, I decided to run and find some sort of way to prove my innocence. Not long after I had fled, I was everywhere on the local news. The police were looking for me, so I had to get a disguise. I found a small shop that sold costumes. I managed to change my appearance and I felt a little bit more relieved. Well, as relieved as you can feel with the cops on your tail for something you didn't even do. One evening, as I was walking towards a motel, from around the corner appeared one of the most beautiful women I'd ever seen. She also looked like she worked out a lot. We bumped into each other. "Oh, sorry about that," I said. She smiled at me.
No problem. I'm Cassie. What's your name?
She asked me while hypnotizing me with her beautiful green eyes. I'm Matt Mentis," I said like an idiot. I never should have revealed my real name, but at the time I didn't realize it. She said she thought I was cute, and I instantly blushed. She took my hand and pulled me close to her. We were inches away from touching lips.
Now I got you.
And I was confused. I didn't know what she meant. Then, before I could say anything, she pulled me even closer. It was pretty hot, I'm not gonna lie. A beautiful girl pulling me this close, it was something I was not used to, but there was something poking me in the stomach. It was a gun. She said she was a bounty hunter sent by my former boss. In a moment of desperation, I headbutted her and ran away.
I love the thrill of the chase. I hope I won't have to kill you. You're pretty cute.
As I was running as fast as I could, I arrived at the motel and locked the door. I was terrified. How could my life change so much? And especially if I didn't do anything. Gradually, I started feeling very tired. I fell asleep. At around 2 a.m., my eyes opened as I felt something on my chest. I couldn't breathe. "Ah!" I screamed. At that moment, the cold barrel of the gun went into my mouth. The bounty hunter was laying on top of me in a position that should have aroused me. But taking into consideration the danger of losing my life, I couldn't concentrate on anything but staying alive.
Come on, cutie pie. Make me work for it. Don't be so easy to catch.
She told me while taking the gun out of my mouth. "What do you want from me?" I asked her.
Well, first of all, I don't want to take you to your boss just yet. I want to have a little fun.
She said while putting her hand on my chest and slowly moving it down.
I want you to run right now. I won't follow you for 5 hours. After that, you're fair game. Do the best that you can to avoid me. But as you'll see, you won't be able to do it for long.
She told me before giving me a short peck on the cheek and getting off of me.
Go! What are you waiting for?
"Come on, we can reach an understanding," I said while putting my hands up in the air.
Do you think I'm playing?
She yelled before shooting her gun, the bullet going inches past my ear.
Go!
I got scared and ran wherever my feet took me. I was confused, scared, and adrenaline was running through my veins. Now I am in hiding. She hasn't found me yet. I just hope to God I will get out of this thing alive.
Neighbors, huh? It's nice to have them. If you're out of something like flour or sugar late at night, and you get the urge to bake a pie, a good neighbor is nice to have. But people are weird today, and sometimes it's not even safe to trust someone. Let me tell you about the time that I got close to a neighbor of mine. I was almost 32, and I've been living in my apartment for a little over a year. I had 2 bedrooms and was really cozy. I was working at home from some time due to the situation that took the world by storm. We all know what I'm talking about. Day after day, doing the same thing and staying inside, it really took a toll on me. I like to occasionally walk in the park, or the fact that I could take a subway to work. I liked people, and the entire thing made me go crazy. The only time I could escape that apartment was when I finished my duties and I could go out on the street and enjoy a cigarette, right after I would take a walk around the block. It was my time to de-stress and stay away from that laptop that made my eyes hurt. One day, it was a Tuesday, I believe, I finished my shift, and after I shut off my computer, I stretched my arms and my legs a little, then I grabbed my cigarettes and went outside. There was a lot on my plate to finish off that day, and it was quite late when I stepped outside. I set up my fitness band so I could track how many steps I walk, and I began heading towards the end of the block. There wasn't anyone outside. The street was empty, and the only living being I could see during my walk was a stray cat. I stopped and it called to me, hoping that I could pet it, but after it gave me an ugly look, like most cats do, it ran away. I continued my walk, and soon after that I got in front of my building. I checked my band and I saw that I walked almost 7,000 steps. I was really proud of myself, but the next thing I was about to do wasn't so noble. I took a cigarette out of the packet, and after that first puff, I felt a feeling of happiness and freedom. I didn't want to go in my apartment, not yet anyways, so I tried to smoke it as slowly as I could. Upon doing so, I looked across the street at the other apartment building. I saw a guy walking towards me. He was in his 20s, so he was younger than me. I thought maybe he would ask for a cigarette or something, but I didn't expect that his intentions to be something completely different. He introduced himself. "Hello, I've been seeing you taking your walks every day. I'm Brian and I live across the street." We shook hands and I introduced myself, but he didn't seem to be going nowhere. He started saying that he loves women who take care of themselves and that I looked amazing. He then asked me how old I was, but I told him that it's not something you should ask a woman. It's not polite. He excused himself, but he didn't go away. So I started smoking faster, and after I was done, I told him that it was nice to meet him and I'll be going back upstairs. As I turned around, he grabbed my hand, a gesture that I found offensive. He then asked me if I'd go out with him. It's been a long time since a guy asked me out, but this is not the way I expected it to happen. I politely refused, but he still didn't let go of my hand. Instead, he continued to look at me in the eyes as if he was still waiting for a response. I pulled my hand away and told him a cold bye before I entered my building and closed the door behind me. I got into my apartment and looked out the window. He was still there, on the street, and for a brief second, I could swear that he looked right at me. At that moment, I crouched down and stepped away from the window. Anyway, I went to bed excited for another day of staying in and looking at that computer screen. The next day went on as usual, and after work I continued my routine of going for a walk and a cigarette. But little did I know that it wasn't going to be the same. I went out in the street and I started walking. Seconds after, I heard a voice behind me. It was that weird guy. He said that he was walking too and asked me if I wanted to walk together. I told him that I had my AirPods in and I usually listen to music while I walk. He said, "Okay," but he still followed me all the way back to my building. I saw him coming over, so I decided not to smoke that evening and went right upstairs. He was starting to creep me out. As I got upstairs, I saw that I got an email from work. It was an urgent matter that I needed to attend to and it couldn't wait. So I opened my computer and started working. It was around 9 p.m. and I was still on the clock. All of a sudden, somebody burst through my door. I got scared and yelled. It was the guy from across the street. He was breathing heavily. "You need to come to my place right now," he said. I told him he was crazy and urged him to get out, but instead of doing so, he came right at me, put his hand on my mouth so I couldn't scream, and dragged me out of the apartment. Being late, no one could see us. He dragged me all the way into his apartment. After he let me go, I started acting violent towards him, but he grabbed my hand and started to explain that there was a guy in my apartment in the other room. He saw through the window. So I called the police to investigate my place, but they didn't find anyone. They did find a bag of weird things. It was filled with handcuffs, dog collars, blindfolds, and other creepy stuff. The creepy dude had just saved my life. Seeing that he's a good soul, I thanked him and apologized for acting in that manner. He said he understood, and then, wouldn't you know it, we went out on our first date the next evening. Everything went well. We talked and laughed, and he didn't have a problem that there was almost 10 years age difference between me and him. And also, besides being a little weird, he was kind of cute and mature for his age. I started to like him. After the date, we went back to his place. I made myself comfortable, got cozy, and looked around while he was in the kitchen, opening up a bottle of wine. I never really paid attention to his place the time that he brought me there, but hey, it was a special circumstance. He had photos of him on hikes and fishing trips. He seemed like quite an adventurous guy. As he was pouring the wine, I went to the washroom to freshen myself up for the long night ahead. As I was opening the door, I thought I heard something. There was just some mild yet strange noise coming up from the storage room adjacent to the door. I opened it, turned on the light, and I just froze. There were two girls sitting on the floor, tied up, dark eyes, torn clothes, and cuts all over their bodies. They were also gagged so they couldn't scream. They looked weak, like they had been there for days. Before he could notice, I turned off the lights and closed the door. I immediately sent an SOS message to a coworker of mine and pretended to be normal. Thankfully, the police arrived on time. Apparently, this guy was a serial abuser and had a history of assaulting and killing the girls he met. To this day, I still have nightmares thinking of that incident and feel scared alone. I so wish The Office resumes soon.
Pause. He was my best friend in the entire world. I got him when I was only 8 years old, so basically, I grew up with him. He'd accompany me everywhere. Each time I would go to the local store, he would be right there beside me. Each time I would study for some test, he would sit quietly next to my desk, keeping me company. He was the best. But one day, a week before Halloween, he disappeared. But sometime before the disappearance of Pause, a major change happened in the neighborhood. And by major change, I mean that a new family moved in. They occupied Adam's old house. The Adams were an old couple who died in their sleep apparently. And because of that unfortunate incident, the house remained empty for some time. But this family didn't seem to care, or maybe the realtor didn't tell them. The weird thing was that they moved in the middle of the night. Everyone was asleep that night on the block, except me. Me and Pause were up. As soon as the moving van arrived in front of their house and the brakes squeaked as it stopped, Pause got up and went to the window to see what was happening. Normally, he wouldn't do that, no matter what he would hear. But that time, it seemed like he was really curious. "Who's there, boy?" I asked him while I paused the movie and joined him next to the window. The movers were carrying a few boxes inside the house, and before I knew it, they were gone. It seemed like the new family didn't have a lot of stuff. Shortly after that, they arrived. Me and Pause watched from behind the shades. He seemed nervous, quietly growling at them. "What's wrong, Pause?" I asked him before I petted the dog on the head. That seemed to calm him down. The new family had a black car. A man got out first. He had a mustache, a black hat, and a cane. Then his presumable wife stepped out of the vehicle. She seemed to be looking around as if checking if someone saw them. She looked sick, had pale skin, and really skinny arms. After looking around, she reached onto the back seat and pulled out a cat, a black cat, which she started to pet before going inside. "See, Pause, maybe you can be friends with that weird cat," I said jokingly before going back to bed and unpausing my movie. But my dog kept staring out the window, even after the couple and their cat went inside the house. "What are you still doing there?" I asked. "Come on into bed," I told him, and after a few seconds, that's what he did. The next day, as I woke up, I didn't see Pause next to me in bed. I got up and went downstairs. He wasn't there either. "Hey, did you see Pause?" I asked my dad, but he said he didn't. He thought he was in my room. Mom even put out a bowl of dog food in the kitchen, but he didn't touch it. "Pause! Pause!" I started to say this while I went outside the house looking for him. I was desperate. He never disappeared like that, and I was certain that something must have happened to him. "Pause! Where are you?" I yelled. Seeing that I can't find him, not even at the park, not even in the backyard, I decided to ask the neighbors. "Hello, Mrs. Davies. Did you happen to see Pause today?" I asked my next-door neighbor, but to my disappointment, she didn't. I went further down the block and then back again on the other side, asking all the neighbors, but no one had a clue where my dog was. I was desperate. There was only one more house to go, the house where the new family just moved in the night before. I knocked on the door, but no one answered. "Come on," I said while knocking again, but this time the door opened. "Yes?" The woman greeted me with a frown on her face and her cat in her arms. "Excuse me, Have you seen my dog, Paws? I asked her, showing her a picture of Paws. Why would I know where your dog is? Probably out and about, eating garbage and sniffing other dogs. Disgusting, the woman said while petting her cat. I noticed that her cat had a paw wrapped up, and it didn't have it the night before. What happened to your cat? I asked her. Wouldn't you like to know? The woman said before shutting the door in my face. I left her porch, disappointed, and went inside. A week passed, and Halloween night came along. Still, without my best friend, I couldn't enjoy it. I wasn't in the mood to give out candy or go to any parties. I kept thinking about what happened to Paws and whether he was still alive. As I was looking out the window, I saw that everyone was outside enjoying themselves. Everyone, except that weird family who just moved in. Paws never ran away before they came, and he never was so aggressive about anyone, I thought to myself. Maybe that woman has something to do with Paw's disappearance, I said. So right then and there, I wanted to investigate. I went outside, put on a costume, and went into their backyard. I was looking for any type of clues that would tie them to my missing dog. As I was walking on the grass, I caught a glimpse of something in the window. The woman was standing on the floor with some candles around her, and it looked like she was talking, but no one was there with her. All of a sudden, she threw some sort of powder in the air and opened her eyes. I ducked down. What's wrong with these people? I thought to myself. As I got up, I heard, "Hey, stop it right there!" I froze, looking left and right. I saw that the husband was walking towards me with the help of his cane. I took my mask off. "Hello, sir. I'm your neighbor. I was looking for my dog," I said. "Inside my house? What did you see exactly?" He menacingly asked while raising his cane as if he was about to hit me. "Come on, dear, he's just a kid." The voice of his wife could be heard. I turned around and there she was with the window open. "I'm sure you'll find your dog really soon. I have a hunch," she said. I looked at both of them but didn't say anything. There was something clearly wrong with their energy, so I just left. I got home, disappointed, and went to bed. I just wanted to sleep and forget about everything. But something woke me up at around 3 a.m. It was a noise coming from my window, but I was on the first floor. I got up to check it out, and when I did, I tripped on something and fell. "What the hell?" I said while getting up, holding my head with my hands. But what I saw made me forget about the pain. There he was, Paws, right next to my bed as he would normally be. But this time, he wasn't breathing. Paws was dead, all stiff, and he had a strange red marking on his forehead. It looked like some sort of pentagram or something. The next thing I did was go to my neighbor's house at that hour. I banged on the door furiously until one of them answered me. "How did you know I'll find my dog? Did you kill him? Did he hurt your cat and you killed him and then returned him to me? Huh?" I yelled so loudly, half the block woke up. "You better go back to your home before I call the police, young man," the man said, and he was right. There wasn't any evidence that pointed to them. I got home, and on that Halloween night at 3:30 a.m., I was burying my dead dog in my backyard, tears falling on his corpse. "This isn't over," I whispered while throwing dirt on Paws. This happened to me right before last Halloween. I wasn't on good terms with the owner of my apartment. The place is in pretty bad shape, and the fact that the owner refused to fix the issues like the water leaking in the kitchen made me want to look for another place to stay. It didn't take long, and after 2 days of browsing the internet for the perfect apartment, I found it. Immediately, I called the owner. "Hey, I'm interested in the apartment," I told him. Yeah, that sounds great. There's only one problem," he told me on the phone. "Please don't tell me there's a leaking pipe in the kitchen," I replied. "Oh no, nothing like that. I'm actually out of town for a week, but you can come on by and take a look at it," he told me. Fast forward, and after about 15 hours of dealing with the leak in my kitchen, I finally arrived at the new building, which I hope didn't have those sorts of problems. As I was standing outside, the building looked deserted. It had 3 floors, and as I walked up to the 3rd, where the apartment was, I didn't hear any noise, nor did I see anyone. It looked like the entire place was empty. I got to the door, and a sticky note was stuck to it. "Call me when you see this. Signed, Todd." That was the owner's name. I called him, and he said that he had reached a decision. Since I wanted to move in right away, he would let me do that. Also, he told me about the whereabouts of the key. It was hidden under the plastic plant that charmingly decorated the seemingly deserted hallway. I took out the key and opened the door. As I made the first step in, I heard a noise coming from the apartment right at the end of the hallway. It sounded like some sort of banging, but I could only hear it for a couple of seconds. I didn't think twice about it. I was too excited to see if this new place is going to be okay, or am I about to start looking for an apartment all over again? I got in, and I wasn't disappointed. "Not bad," I said to myself while walking around the house. Yeah, it wasn't anything special, but it was clean, and I had a lot of space. The furniture was okay, and most importantly, everything was dry. No leaking pipes this time. The next day was Halloween, and since I love the holiday, I decided that I needed to go to the store and get some candy for the kids. But as I took a look at the time, I postponed the trip until the next morning. I was really tired. I had the worst sleep that night. I kept having cold sweats, and I had a feeling that something was lurking outside my door. I even opened it a couple of times to make sure that no one was there. All I felt was a chill as I looked down the hallway, but nothing else. So I blamed it on being in a new place. The next day, I set my new apartment up for Halloween. Candles, cobwebs, and the works. As nighttime came, I was ready for the kids to arrive. "I hope I didn't buy all this candy for nothing," I said while I waited with a huge smile on my face. But as the minutes and finally hours went on, I realized that no kid would come and trick or treat in the building. I opened my apartment window to see what was going on outside. Lots of kids, accompanied by their parents, were simply walking past my building. Maybe the fact that I was the only apartment with the light on made them think the place was almost deserted. I went back inside and turned on my TV. "I guess it'll be a boring Halloween," I said while changing channels left and right. All of a sudden, I heard someone knocking at my door. "Trick-or-treaters?" I said to myself while becoming more and more excited. I got up, grabbed the bowl of candy, put on my plastic devil horns, and opened the door. "Hello," I said, but shortly I realized that no one was there. I looked left and right, and there wasn't any sign of trick-or-treaters. "I know I heard someone knocking at my door," I said while being confused. I got back inside, put the bowl on the table, and sat back on the couch. Again, I heard banging, and of course, full of hope, I went back to the door. Just as the last time, no one was there. But as I looked around, I heard banging coming from the apartment down the hall. "So that's what I heard," I said to myself. But a thought popped into my mind. Why don't I go and introduce myself? There was only 2 people living in the entire building. Why shouldn't we know each other? I said. As I was walking down the hall, I felt it was getting colder and colder. There weren't any windows open or anything like that. I knocked on the door, but no one answered. The banging noise coming from inside. I knocked again. "Come on, I know you're home," I said to myself, but no one answered. I decided to try a 3rd time, and if they're still not going to answer me, I would just quit. But before my knuckle touched the wooden door, it opened. On its own, apparently. "Hello?" I said, while standing at the door and looking around. Again, I heard the banging. It seemed to be coming from the bedroom or something. "Hello? I'm your neighbor from down the hall," I said, while taking my first step into the apartment. The place was kind of creepy. It was filled with all sorts of photos on the wall. The banging intensified. I walked towards the place where the noise came from. "Hello?" I asked while knocking on the door. I didn't want to open it right away, but as soon as I knocked, a growling noise scared the shit out of me. "What the hell? I thought. I opened the door, and what I saw left me speechless. Right there on the floor was a man, shackled in chains and with a muzzle on. The man had bloodshot eyes, bulging veins on his entire body, and cuts on his arm. "Are you okay?" I asked without knowing how to react. The man just stared at me and started to bang his head against the wall. That was the banging noise all this time. I tried to get close to him so I could get those chains off his wrists, but as soon as I made 2 steps forward, I felt an electrical pulse on the top of my head and everything went black. All I remember is waking up in my bed dressed in pajamas. "What happened?" I asked while getting up. My head hurt tremendously, especially at the very top. Then I suddenly remembered the guy in the apartment. I rushed there, opened the door, and there wasn't anyone. The place was completely empty. No photos, no furniture, and especially no people. I hung out there for a while in hopes of finding some clues or something about that guy who looked like he was in so much pain. But as it turned out, the place looked like no one ever lived there. I never knew what I saw exactly. I even called the owner and asked him about that apartment. He said it has always been empty. I don't know if he was lying or not, but one thing was certain. It was the weirdest Halloween night I ever had.